She had the corner office, the six-figure salary, and total security, but her award-winning job was built on destroying vulnerable families. In one sentence, Jennifer threw away her entire career to choose God over money. This is the true cost of courage and the miracle that followed. Jennifer had everything she thought she wanted. Director of Marketing at Horizon Financial Services, corner office on the 23rd floor, six-figure salary, respect from colleagues, security for her daughter Rose, who she was raising alone after her divorce 3 years earlier. She'd worked hard to get here. Late nights, sacrificed weekends, proved herself in a male-dominated industry. She wasn't just good at her job, she was exceptional. Her campaigns were brilliant, persuasive, converting. Her team consistently exceeded targets. But there was something she'd been ignoring, something that started as a whisper in the back of her mind and had slowly grown into a voice she could no longer silence. The products they were selling, high-interest loans marketed to vulnerable communities, were destroying people. She'd seen the data, the demographics, the default rates. They weren't helping people build wealth. They were trapping them in cycles of debt. And her job, her exceptional, award-winning job, was to make those products look like opportunities. For 3 years, Jennifer had told herself the same lie many people tell themselves when they're uncomfortable with their work. It's just business. I'm not responsible for what people choose. I have a daughter to provide for. This is the real world. But the lie was getting harder to believe. It was a Tuesday afternoon when everything changed. Jennifer's boss, Ian, called a strategy meeting. The executive team was launching a new product. Payday loans with interest rates that Jennifer knew would devastate the very people they were targeting. Ian pulled up the marketing plan. The tagline read, "Emergency cash when you need it most." The target demographic? Single mothers, low-income families, people living paycheck to paycheck. Jennifer felt her stomach turn. "Torres, I want you to lead this campaign," Ian said, grinning. "You're the best we have. If anyone can make this work, it's you." Around the table, her colleagues nodded. This was a promotion opportunity, a chance to prove herself even further. But all Jennifer could think about was Rose. What if someone had targeted her this way when she was struggling after the divorce? What if she'd been desperate enough to sign that paperwork? What if she'd fallen into that trap? She opened her mouth to speak, but fear gripped her throat. "If you say no, you'll lose this job. You have a mortgage, Rose's tuition. You can't afford to be unemployed." But another voice, quieter, steadier, whispered something different. "You cannot serve both God and money." The verse from Matthew 6:24 that she'd heard in church the previous Sunday. The one she'd tried to ignore. Jennifer took a breath. "Ian, I need to see the full terms of this product before I can commit to the campaign." Ian raised an eyebrow. "The legal approved it. That's all you need to know." "No," Jennifer said, surprised by the firmness in her own voice. "I need to know what we're actually offering people. I need to see the interest rates, the penalties, the long-term cost." The room went quiet. Ian's smile faded and addressed her by her full name. "Jennifer Torres, are you questioning this company's integrity?" This is it, Jennifer thought. This is the moment. You can back down. You can apologize. You can keep your job. But she couldn't. "I'm questioning whether this is something I can put my name on," she said quietly. "And I think I already know the answer." 2 weeks later, Jennifer was asked to resign. Not fired, that would have created legal complications, but strongly encouraged to pursue other opportunities. When she refused to quietly leave, things escalated. Her projects were reassigned. Her team was told to report to someone else. She was excluded from meetings, isolated. Her colleague Liam, someone she'd considered a friend, stopped speaking to her in the hallway. Jennifer went to HR. She documented everything. She tried to report the predatory lending practices through proper channels. Nothing changed, except her paycheck stopped coming. "Voluntary resignation," the paperwork said. She hadn't signed it, but somehow it was processed anyway. Within 3 months, Jennifer went from a 6-figure salary to unemployment. She burned through her savings. She called her friend Nora, a woman from her church small group who'd always been a steady presence. "I don't know if I made the right choice," Jennifer admitted, tears streaming down her face as they sat in Nora's living room. "Rose deserves better than this. I had everything, and I threw it away over, what? Principles? Was I being self-righteous? Was I being stupid? Nora handed her a tissue and sat quietly for a moment. Jennifer, do you remember the story of Esther? Jennifer nodded. She didn't know if standing up to the king would save her people or get her killed. She said, "If I perish, I perish." That's what courage looks like. Not knowing the outcome, just knowing you can't stay silent. But what if I can't find another job? What if I lose the house? What if God is asking you to trust him? Nora interrupted gently. You didn't quit because you were reckless. You quit because you were obedient. There's a difference. Over the next 6 months, Jennifer learned what it meant to trust God when the storm doesn't stop. She applied for dozens of jobs. Most didn't respond. Some told her she was overqualified. One company rescinded an offer when her previous employer gave a neutral reference that somehow communicated she was trouble. She sold her car and bought something older. She moved Rose to a smaller school. She took freelance work, small projects that paid a fraction of what she used to make. It was humbling. It was terrifying. But something else was happening too. She started sleeping better. For the first time in 3 years, she wasn't waking up at 3 a.m. with a knot in her stomach, wondering how to sell a product she didn't believe in. She started praying again, really praying, not just reciting words, and she started noticing opportunities she never would have seen before. A nonprofit called her. They needed marketing help but couldn't afford corporate rates. Jennifer took the job, partly because she needed income, partly because their mission actually aligned with her values. Then another nonprofit called. And another. Organizations that were actually helping people, fighting predatory lending, providing financial literacy, protecting vulnerable communities from the exact practices Jennifer had once helped promote. Her income wasn't what it used to be, but her work had meaning again. One day, Rose asked her, "Mom, are you happier now?" Jennifer thought about it. "Yes," she said. "I think I am." "Good," Rose said simply. "You used to cry a lot. You don't anymore." 2 years after leaving Horizon Financial, Jennifer got a call from a law firm. They were building a case against Horizon for predatory lending practices. They'd heard through the nonprofit network that Jennifer had worked there and had tried to report the issues internally. "Would you be willing to testify?" the attorney asked. Jennifer's first instinct was fear. Testifying meant going public. It meant potential retaliation. It meant dredging up the hardest season of her life. But then she thought about the people whose lives had been devastated by those loans. She thought about single mothers like her who'd been targeted when they were most vulnerable. She thought about Rose, watching, learning what it meant to have courage. "Yes," Jennifer said, "I'll testify." The case took another year, but Horizon Financial Services was eventually found liable. They were forced to restructure their lending practices. Thousands of people received restitution for predatory loans. Jennifer's testimony had been a key factor. After the verdict, the lead attorney called her. "You didn't have to do this," he said. "You could have just moved on." "Why did you?" Jennifer thought about the question. "Because courage isn't something you feel," she said finally. "It's something you do when you're afraid. And I was tired of being too afraid to do what was right." Today, Jennifer runs her own small marketing consultancy. She works exclusively with nonprofits and organizations whose missions she believes in. She makes about half what she used to make at Horizon, but she sleeps peacefully. She looks her daughter in the eye without shame, and she knows that courage isn't about having all the answers. It's about obeying God even when you don't know if He'll stop the storm. It's about trusting that sometimes God doesn't calm the storm. He teaches you to walk through it. Jennifer's story isn't about a woman who was fearless. It's about a woman who was terrified and obeyed anyway. That's the gift of courage, not the absence of fear, but the presence of faith. This is what courage looks like when it's lived in ordinary places, by ordinary women serving an extraordinary God. Jennifer didn't know if God would stop the storm, but she learned something more important. God doesn't always calm the storm. He teaches you to walk through it. If Jennifer's story challenged you, consider subscribing to Women Called by God TV, because courage isn't reserved for the pulpit. It's meant for every woman who chooses obedience over comfort, one decision at a time.
I will trust your voice, holding on to hope when the days are long. You carry me when I'm losing sight.